My name is Damian Durda. I live in Vancouver. I work at Nemesis Coffee. I am a partner and also a partner at Ratnagiri Estate, based in India. And we are also launching a project called Change of Tone, which will be solely focused on importing high quality green beans to India. Um, that's what I do for a living currently. What brought me here is the willingness to define how you can find Indian coffee on the cupping table. And to start with, I would like to give you a little bit of introduction what India coffee market looks like, or how does it look like? Um, because for me, it's a little fascinating. It all started with planting seven seeds in Karnataka by the British, and then later by the Dutch people. And basically, coffee has spread over three different regions. And in 1907, the Board of India has been developed. But what I've been told from the locals and friends who are working with coffee for many years in India, they told me that the biggest revolution happened between 1940s and 1950s when British colony stopped being a British colony and they got independence. And that was when Board of Coffee in India started developing different varieties and helping growers to maintain the yield, being heavily hit in between 40s and 50s with the leaf rust. Majority of coffee farmers lost 70-80% of the crops, and the country was facing a huge problem, which was or is being solved by Board of India again till nowadays, introducing resistant hybrids. And coffee market in India worked in a very similar way to Ethiopian commodity market. So it was based on the auction system. So basically, if you would wanted to buy directly from the farmer, you needed to go to Bangalore or Mumbai and bid on the coffees which were in your interest. And obviously, with the history and information we have gotten over the years from Ethiopia or Kenya, this system was not perfect, was designed to standardize the coffee industry, but it was also bringing a lot of bureaucracy, paperwork, and possible fraud or corruption. Luckily, not being very negative, but luckily in 1993, the auction system started collapsing, and in 1995, it officially began the new era in coffee exporting, because during that time of Board of Coffee in India, the segment was heavily standardized and protocoled. We're talking about processing coffees as washed only, due to the regulations. We're talking about massive shortage in export licenses and finding international market for Indian coffee. We're talking about dictating prices and grading system, which is fascinating, and it was similar to Kenyan system, which was based on screen size. So everything which was 15 up was exportable, and obviously everything which was bigger was considered better. And as we have multiple hundreds of thousands examples from Kenya, not every AA bean tastes better than AB. And we have a lot of examples of that in the recent years in Kenya. During my trips, I discovered many AB coffees tasting way better than AA coffees. It's a matter of screen size. So in 1995, the revolution has begun. Luckily for the growers, they could experiment with processing, which happened a little bit later because probably the best uh, focus and the biggest focus was on exporting coffee. That was accessing the free market. So free market gave a lot of possibilities to people to just export coffees to international growers who were already coming to India and asking for great coffee. So the relationships established within 1995 and 2010 heavily impacted the coffee industry, which seems to be today. And in my opinion, coffee market in India is super interesting and very exciting. I've seen so many great farms. Majority of the farms are shade grown, and this is kind of exceptional aspect of coffee industry, as we all know. Smallholders, in Central America, often don't have any shades, or they're planting artificial shades. I mean, natural shades, but artificially planting. And most of the coffee in India is grown in the forest and in the jungle. Arabica is grown between 900 and 1350 because everything above 1350 meters above the sea level is considered as the national park already. At Ratnagiri, we are lucky because the farm is actually located as bordering the national park and beautiful slopes of mountains in Karnataka, and the place where coffee actually has been developed. So we are literally like 4 kilometers from that place. And we have very natural habitat, plenty of species of birds. I think Ashok counted 76 different species of birds. We have lots of monkeys who are stealing our oranges, and a lot of different insects. It's a beautifully located farm at the slopes of mountains with two streams. So to tell you a little bit about Ratnagiri estate, because for me it's a very personal and beautiful part of my life, which started 3 years ago. We decided to jump into specialty coffee 3 years ago. Not mentioning that Ashok Patre, which is the sole owner of the farm, was not producing specialty coffee, but he was producing blenders and the bulk quantity, mixing everything together, but having already very strict protocols if it comes to pre-sorting, post-sorting, processing method, and dry milling. I jumped in 2018 and we immediately clicked. We sat next to the fire under the sky, talked with each other for many years and developed a plan to try something out. The first year we produced around 120 microlots, which obviously some of them weren't successful, but due to the testing and experimenting, we discovered a lot of aspects which helped us develop microlot program in the way that it is seen today. In the first year, we focused solely on differentiating blocks at the farm, physically actually going to every single one and tasting the beans with the GPS watch and recording everything. We have decided to separate varieties, which was second major improvement that we have done at the farm. And then we solely focus on harvesting. The farm has 134 acres, which almost 100 are in coffee production. At the farm, we have also a black pepper, and we have oranges and cardamom. So basically, and also infrastructure required to do coffee processing and basically a couple of houses to live. We have 26 permanent workers who are actually living at the farm. We built a massive house. We are bringing healthcare doctors to the farm. These people are working with us every single day, living at the farm, eating at the farm, living just at the farm. And we are hiring in the peak of the season. We're hiring from 80 to 100 people required for harvesting. And in the first year, we focused solely on differentiating two group of people at the farm. We wanted to basically have elite group of pickers who are heavily trained and understand the value of harvesting only the ripe cherries, and also do the pre-sorting and post-sorting. What it means is that the first selection, which is the pre-sorting, is basically harvesting only the ripe cherries to the basket, and then after collecting everything and coming to the delivery point, post-sorting the same cherries just to have 100% or close to 100% only the ripest cherries. We are based on the bricks content, so we are also analyzing and recording the bricks content from each farm, from each block at the farm, to be able to differentiate the processing method used later. And if it comes to micro program, we also wanted to give something else, as we all know that majority of coffee in India is being processed as washed, and natural coffees, or I mean natural micro coffees, are starting to be very popular. I think it comes to conditions and the specific area where Ratnagiri is located. We have we have had to extend massively the fermentation for washed coffees due to the climate change, which is visible every single year. For instance, this past season we had rain two times in the periods when the rain is almost never coming. So this was unexpected error if it comes to climate. Basically, we never expected that before, never happened before, and we really had a struggle to be able to process those coffees. So we lost approximately 30% of our harvest. Um, and yeah, post sorting is being done now as a standard routine. We have different fermentation processes at the farm. We heavily invested in processing facility, which is focused on microlots solely right now. Um, Last year we produced 167 microlots, which are majority of it was sold to the international customers. Um, Talking about the general cup profile of India, it's really hard because the stigma about Indian coffee is still heavily present. And I have a small issue with that because it's really hard to change mentality about Indian coffee, because Indian coffee is always put in a basket of cheap coffee, or always considered as some filler, some blender, some espresso part or espresso blend. Um, when I worked for a renowned roastery here in Canada, I quickly realized that these coffees have so much potential. And I was testing a lot of different Indian coffees, and I found that majority of them have absolutely amazing body, um, high viscosity, which is obviously great for espresso, but also gives you a lot of possibilities to roast this coffee differently for different purposes, like a, let's say a filter blend or even micro lot. So heavy bodied, the thing that is great for me. Sticky, high, intense sweetness for sure. And also, if I would generally say, I have a lot of high quality dark chocolate, and maybe flavors like cardamom, orange peel, or mandarin orange, which stands out. I wanted also to talk about the microlobe, because it's we have this conversation among each other about how to identify certain coffees, but in my opinion, it's difficult to talk about how to generally find, Costa Rican coffees or Colombian coffees or Brazilian coffees, or Indian coffees, because it all comes to the processing method, and all comes to the variety. So at Nemesis, we try to sell coffees which are coming from single-owned farms and are as a single variety. Um, what gives me the perception, or what gives me a hint of finding Indian coffees on the table, that's going to be definitely a body and a sticky sweetness. It's something that I admire in coffee. I admire high clean cup. I admire high sweetness, and I admire viscosity. I really like clean, dense, rich mouthfeel. Obviously, with clean finish, clean aftertaste. And I prepared two coffees, which are probably easy to define, just identifying those aspects. So in this cup, we have high viscous body, and high sticky sweetness. The attributes that I really like about Indian coffee, and probably these two things would help you find Indian coffee on the table. How to identify variety at the cupping table? I have two different sets of coffees. One is a Calvary, which is the Katimor and Katura. Second is Katuai. For me, Calvary, which was actually unknown 30 years ago, is having sticky sweetness. That's the aspect that I like about this coffee. And also, what we can easily find in Calvary are the red pepper, maybe chili pepper, uh, white pepper notes, which are heavily present. Some spiciness, like a brown spice, like a cardamom, also as a hint, with beautiful high viscosity. Before, I had mixed feelings about introducing this microlot, this coffee as a microlot, um, purely because I was afraid that people will not accept that variety as it is, identifying those flavors as slightly negative or slightly challenging, or maybe even thinking that cup profile is not clean enough to be a standalone variety. But I also believe that we as a coffee industry need to be progressive and introduce coffees as they are, what they're showcasing, and carefully explaining to the customers that these coffees have a lot of potential, are a little bit different, and they also need to be appreciated. Calvary started to be my everyday coffee, and I really like the way it's performing. It's very stable coffee, especially when it's well processed with proper moisture content and water activity. This coffee can stay fresh very long time, which is obviously a favor for the big roasters. From the other side, I have a well-known Katuai variety, which is one of my favorites also for the citric acidity. It's slightly floral, and if it comes to this variety, I'm always finding something citrusy. If it's a citrus fruit or some kiwi, sometimes a pineapple, and it all comes to the way the coffee has been processed. At Ratnagiri, we are processing Katuai differently. We have different processing methods for that variety. This one is classical washed Katuai process, which gives me a beautiful clean cup. Bright cup, slightly tea-like. However, you can feel that the sweetness is medium high, and the flavors are definitely present and upfront. Citrus notes, a little bit of pineapple. I would definitely say this is more on a sweet side. Um, Summarizing our experience today, I think that coffee from India should be much appreciated, and I believe that coffee community is very open-minded and ready to experiment and to accept that different cup profiles can be also appreciated. General notes from those two varieties. For Calvary, definitely a pepper, definitely chocolate, sticky sweetness, high body. For Katuai, I would definitely say citrus fruit notes, a little bit of vanilla, some pineapple, and low presence of florality, but still, as of Katuai, this is great. I would like to thank the leaderboard for giving me a chance to talk with my broken English, and I would really wish good luck to all competitors. And I'm a big fan of leaderboard. Thank you so much.